under the pale moonlight. Vinny and Phil bring the shadows to life. Tales of the ghostly whispers in the night. Bigfoot and aliens ready for the strife. The darkness thickens, the air is cold. Haunting stories waiting to unfold. Supernatural Sundays, the veil is thin. Join us in the chaos, let the night begin. With every whisper and each chilling tale, dare to believe where shadows prevail. EVPs echo through the haunted trees. Demons lurk as the chill hits with ease. But the caps rolling with guests to amaze. Cryptids and spirits were lost in the haze. Northmen in the foliage, watch your back. Dogmen prowling, ready to attack. Supernatural Sundays, the veil is thin. Join us in the chaos, let the night begin. With every whisper and each chilling tale, dare to believe where shadows prevail. Moving in the foliage, watch your back. Through the prowling, ready to attack. Supernatural Sundays, the veil is thin. Join us in the chaos, let the night begin. With every whisper and each chilling tale, dare to believe where shadows prevail. So tune in next week, fear in your soul. Darkness awaits, let the stories unfold.
Welcome back, everybody, to Supernatural Sundays, October 19th edition. We're coming back from an interesting weekend. We just went over to the Goblin Con over in Hopkinsville, Kentucky. It was pretty cool, based on the events that happened in Kelly, Kentucky, and back when it was a UFO encounter back in the 50s, and it was pretty wild. This family basically was going at it with these aliens for like 4 hours, and they had the police involved, state police, and they called the local military base, and it got pretty wild. So without further ado, I've got a lot of stuff to go over this week, and let's get into it. I'm going to show you a little intro. We're going to talk a little bit about this Goblin Con, because we like to talk about aliens, UFOs, anything supernatural.
What's up, everybody? Just a reminder, I am hosting the UFO panel for the Goblin Con this weekend in Hopkinsville, Kentucky. I think it's 5:15 on Saturday night. Panelists are Geraldine Sutton-Steeth, Tom Reed, Tim R. Schwartz, and I think Tyler Strand from Hillier will be there. I've got a booth. Come by and see me. Here's a preview of it right now for some of the little trinkets and doodads you can get. Come see me, Hopkinsville, Kentucky. I think the con starts on Friday. I will be there all day Saturday and emceeing the UFO panel Saturday night. Come see me. Peace.
We're all about trinkets and doodads. We love those kind of things. They had a lot of merch there, had a lot of cool stuff, homemade stuff, and there's some 3D printed items, stuff made out of epoxy. There were, I think, at least 4 different paranormal teams there represented, so it's pretty interesting. Here's a picture of me and Cammy Girl there at the Goblin Con. Come on, they had goblins everywhere. Pretty wild. Let's get into talking about these goblins. I got a couple interesting stories about the Hopkinsville goblins, since this was the 70th anniversary of when this happened. And there was actually one living descendant, and we got to listen to her talk. It was her grandfather, I believe. And the way she explained it, one of the boys went outside to do something and saw this, they saw this thing land, and basically a spaceship, for better words. And then they started seeing these little creatures running around, and they had long, skinny legs and kind of a dark skin. And they went back in the house, and everybody started getting kind of creeped out. Next thing you know, they loaded up their shotguns and everything, and these things started coming up on the house and getting on the roof, and that's when they started shooting at them. And there was some kind of blood when they hit one, and it was glowing, and stuff would glow. It was like sticky, and when the sheriff came out and everything, they couldn't find any trace of these creatures, and after a while, the blood kind of like just disappeared. I don't know if anybody ever kept a sample or anything, but it was pretty interesting. They were basically having a battle with these things, shooting at them, and weren't seeming to kill them or anything. So they called one of the boys, I think, went into town and got the sheriff, and then they ended up calling the military base, I think Fort Campbell. They came back with 25 more reinforcements from the local sheriff. I think state police were involved, and maybe some military. And then they never did find out what these things are. They basically took off. I got a few more little Hopkinsville goblin clips here I'm going to play.
The Goblins of Hopkinsville, Kentucky. On the evening of August 21st, 1955, 5 adults, 7 children visited the Hopkinsville, Kentucky police station with a strange story. Group reported they had witnessed a flying saucer. It landed near the farmhouse where they were staying the night. Little men surrounded the house, peering at the frightened families as they attempted to gain entry. John Sutton and Bill Ray Taylor claimed to have fought off the men for several hours before leaving to notify the police. The little men were short, monkey-like, with long arms and webbed hands with talons, large bright offset eyes, pointed ears. They found no tracks or marking outside of the home. Another officer reported seeing a meteor shower in the area, but no flying saucer. Media quickly spread the strange news of the Hopkinsville goblins, or little men.
And this was before the internet, and news spread pretty much around the world, like within excuse me, the next day. And Anyway, it was pretty much a global phenomenon. Here, I got another little clip from the Hopkinsville incident. That which actually wasn't Hopkinsville, it was Kelly. They call it the Kelly incident. They're kind of calling it Hopkinsville now just because it's the closest big town, and that's where they have the Goblin Con. I believe this was the first Goblin Con, so hopefully they'll have some more.
The Hopkinsville Goblins, aka the Kelly Hopkinsville Encounter. In 1955, a Kentucky family claimed they fought off glowing, goblin-like creatures for hours, and police believed something strange really happened. One summer night in Hopkinsville, Kentucky, the Sutton family rushed into town, terrified. They told police that small, glowing-eyed beings surrounded their farmhouse. The creatures had long arms, claw-like hands, and seemed to float more than walk. The family said they fired guns at them for nearly 4 hours, yet the bullets had no effect. The goblins would vanish into the woods, only to reappear at the windows and roof. When police investigated, they found no bodies, but multiple witnesses swore the Suttons weren't lying. Officers reported strange lights in the woods and bullet holes in the farmhouse walls. Skeptics suggest owls, monkeys, or even overactive imaginations, but the Sutton family never sought fame or money. They just wanted people to believe what they saw. Today, UFO enthusiasts point to the Hopkinsville Goblins as one of the most credible close encounter cases in U.S. history. Were they aliens, misidentified animals, or something we still can't explain? And what would you have done if they appeared outside your window? Like, follow, share, and comment for more tales.
Pretty wild. Happened 70 years ago, but to the folks that it happened to, it was pretty much like it was yesterday. It was a pretty good convention. They had a guy there that made his own R2D2. Like, it looked legit, like life size, just like in the movie. It was really cool. Shout out to that guy because he had no prior training on how to do anything electronics, robotics, anything like that. But it was it would open up. Its little helmet would open up. It would scream. Made all the noises. Did all the movements. All the little features worked exactly like in the movie. It even played Star Wars different theme songs from the different movies, and it was pretty cool. What are you doing there, little buddy? You guys can't see him on camera. My dog's coming in here to hang out. But you can hang out. You're okay. What are you doing there, Bo? So, we got some more stuff going on here with these aliens. I'm gonna play a couple alien videos here to see maybe this is kind of what those things may have looked like at the Hopkinsville incident.
The little grays are the ones that are supposed to be the most common. But to me, they're not frightening. I've spoken to them directly, and I think they're really very nice little guys because I've got to understand more about them. They are more of an android, a manufactured type. I call them the gophers. They're the ones that do the chores and do the errands. They send them down to do everything, and they don't understand what they're doing. It's kind of like the orderlies in the hospital, you know. They come in and take blood and they don't care. You know, they go in the next one and take their blood. And you say, wait a minute, I want to know what you're doing. And they say, oh, no, you know. That's the attitude I have about them. They're just doing what they're told. And they might look frightening.
That was pretty wild. While we're on the subject of aliens coming around, creeping around, got another kind of interesting video here. You guys see what do you think of this? This looks real, or think somebody's making this up?
Real alien gray caught near woman's home looking for something October 18th, 25.
pretty wild. It looked like it was digging up something. So what do you guys think about that? You think that thing was real? I think I may have another. This one, this woman could be an alien. They think she may be a skinwalker, but this is pretty wild. The police were pulling this lady over, and she just started acting really weird, like not in like a normal, like, you know, like if she were intoxicated or whatever, kind of weird. It's like some other kind of weird. The body cam captured it, so one of her eyeballs does something kind of weird. So it's pretty interesting. Thought I'd pull it up this week, see what everybody thinks. You guys think she's a skinwalker, or just maybe something else going on, medical, possibly?
My finger with just your eyes. Don't move your body. Jesus. Got a lazy eye or something? Stay right there. You will blow into this mouthpiece for 3 seconds. Do you understand? Try that again. One more time.
What number do you want?
What?
What do you want? 1.6? 5.
Stay right there. Lady, back up, and when I say go, I want you to walk in a straight line towards me, all right?
Ralphie.
What's going on?
Thank God. This chick's supposed to be dead.
What does that mean? What do you mean?
I don't know. The system says she died 3 years.
Stop! You know what? You are under arrest!
Oh, shit!
Lady!
I know it's not your guys' fault. I'm going through like a lot right now.
The clip is without a doubt very unusual. As the scene kept playing out, 2 moments stood out the most. First, the woman's eyes seemed to drift in completely different directions, something that just shouldn't happen normally. Then she appeared to glide straight toward the officers, right after one of them revealed that the person with her name had reportedly died about 3 years earlier. None of this has a clear answer.
That's pretty wild. Her eyeballs didn't move the same direction. I don't know if I've seen anybody can do that. And then she was floating along there and supposed to be dead for 3 years. Made a pretty good little clip. Not sure if it's made up or legit nowadays. It's kind of hard to tell. Let's see. While we're talking about Skinwalker, they've been seeing a lot of orbs out there this year. So they do have a video of the orbs. This went on for over 2.5 hours. We're not going to play it that long, but I am going to show you a video. This is purportedly from Skinwalker Ranch orbs. When you see orbs in a house when you're doing an investigation, it shows up on your cameras. A lot of times it's just dust. But this was out in the sky, so I don't know. A little too far up to be bugs or whatnot. And this here's kind of creepy. This is another possible, we don't know if this could be a spirit or a cryptid. But either way, people are catching a lot of more stuff out in their yards now. They're having those security cameras up and whatnot. And this is the capture in this lady's yard. Kind of interesting.
This girl was filming outside at night when she caught a cryptid on camera. Check it out.
Oh my gosh. Look at all the fog. It's like a horror movie. Oh man. The street light. Fuck is that?
I don't know about you, but I clearly saw something run by. People think that she either captured the rake or a skinwalker on camera. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below.
I think it was a raccoon. It looked kind of like a raccoon to me. But, I thought she had a security camera, but she was just out filming. But I'm gonna roll that back one more time because it went pretty fast, and see if you guys can see this thing. It moved pretty fast. I'm calling raccoon.
This girl was filming outside at night when she caught a cryptid on camera. Check it out.
Oh my gosh. Look at all the fog. It's like a horror movie. Oh man. The street light. Fuck is that?
I don't know about you, but I clearly saw something run by. People think that she either captured the rake or a skinwalker on camera. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below.
I'm still going with raccoon. Well, I think it's time for a little more cowbell.
I could have used a little more cowbell.
Hoping to get the old cowbell out here in the next week or two. It's one of our fun devices we made paranormal to see if something can ring the cowbell. And you can never have enough cowbell, so we have more cowbell. And I got something else I've made this week. Something I've been working on this for a while. I've been studying it. They call them orgone generators, and it's basically it'll usually be involved with glass, and it'll have copper coil, and it'll have a crystal. And this one particular one is made like in an old railroad insulator, like on the telegraph wires they had the glass insulators. And I've been studying this guy. I've been watching him online. He's an older gentleman. He's been making these orgone generators. There's different kind of coils, different grounding coils. There's Tesla coils, all kind of different things. So basically, you take the old railroad insulator, glass insulator, and you have a crystal inside, and you wrap it with 1 cubit of copper wire. So a cubit is the biblical measurement from the tip of your finger all the way to your crutch, your elbow. So from here to here is the measurement. It's like 21 inches, something like that. So you wrap the crystal with that, and it's supposed to bring in energy, and then you put more copper in there. You can use BBs. I actually put some pennies in this. I got some more copper coils in here, and then use other stones that bring in positive energy, protective stones. There's black obsidian in here. There's amethyst. There's crystal in here. There's some tiger eye. And I'm going to try to bring it a little closer to the camera so you guys can see this thing. Hold up. You can see the coil in there. There's the coil. And then it's got the pennies in there. Another coil inside of there. Anyway. All right. So what this is supposed to do, it's supposed to bring in energy, and with all the positive energy stones in there, it's supposed to actually help convert negative energy to positive energy. So this is my first one I made, and we're going to try it out, see how it does. And there's smaller ones that you can get, like put in your pocket, just carry around, help with positivity. I think the world needs more positivity. And so a lot of them I've seen are triangular in shape, and they're basically like a solid epoxy triangle, like a little pyramid, and then they'll have their crystal inside in the coil, and then they'll use either copper shavings or little bits of iron around the base, and they'll have a layer of stone, a layer of copper, and then they'll have the coil in there. So if you get a chance to look them up, Orgone generators, ORGONE, I believe. If you type in Oregon, you're going to get like the state or a chainsaw or something like that. Or you're actually going to get a generator there's a brand name generator, Oregon, like the state. But these are Orgone generators. So if you have a chance to look it up, let me know. We're going to take this on some investigations. If we start having some positive results, then we will definitely put that on our YouTube and our Facebook, and probably put it on TikTok too. Trying to think if I got any more Skinwalker stuff going on, or new types of. That was our new device for this week, the Orgone generator. Speaking of outer space stuff, we're going to have an update on what's going on out there. We got the Atlas 3I. I'm looking for a video here. There is a comet Lemon. I believe they pronounce it Lemon. It's not spelled like lemon. It's like Lemmon. And it's a green comet, and it's visible from October 18th till the 20th. It's supposed to kind of peak through the 18th or 20th. Then it's going to be visible, I think, up until early November. And you're supposed to be able to see that with your naked eye. You go out right after sunset and wait till it gets dark, like not still with a blue, horizon. You want it black, and you want to look by the Big Dipper. And it's off there's one star on the end of the handle of the Big Dipper, and it's off from there. That's where you want to look. I went out and tried to look for it. We couldn't see it. Supposed to be able to see it with your naked eye October 18th. We could not see it. I got an app on my phone. I'm looking up the star constellations and trying to find out where it is exactly. Got a couple other guys. We've been looking for this thing. Have not been able to see it with the naked eye. There's some really cool pictures of it online, though, and I've got a video of Comet Lemon. So if anybody likes to go out and do some stargazing, to me, comets are kind of considered supernatural, celestial events. They don't come around very often. A lot of people have a lot of superstitions with comets because they come at, kind of odd times. And anyway, here's Comet Lemon.
Starting October 15th, Comet Lemon will blaze across the heavens, a radiant green traveler returning after 1,000 years on its vast journey through the solar system. As night falls, look northwest after sunset or before dawn. There you'll see its shimmering coma glowing like emerald mist and a luminous tail stretching across the stars, more than twice the moon's width. By October 21st, Comet Lemon will reach its peak brightness, glowing brilliantly enough to be seen without a telescope. It's a once-in-a-lifetime spectacle, a fleeting cosmic encounter that no one alive today will ever witness again. So when the October sky begins to shimmer with that strange green light, take a moment to look up, make a wish, and remember how rare it is to see the universe writing in color. Subscribe now before Comet Lemon vanishes for another millennium.
So it's going to be a long time before it comes around again. Most of us will be already passed on to the other side. I'm hoping I'll live long enough to see Halley's Comet come around one more time, but I was in high school when it came around the first time, so it only comes around every 75 years, so hope we make it to see it again. I have a couple more Atlas 3I updates. They believe the Atlas 3I has stopped outside of Mars. There's a couple reports where it just stopped, but I haven't been able to confirm anything with NASA's website. I do have a couple more Atlas 3I videos I'm going to play here for y'all and see what you think.
Comet, asteroid, or something else? A Harvard astrophysicist believes there's a strong likelihood this is a craft of alien origin.
Something is happening near Mars, and the official story isn't adding up. A comet from deep space, 3I Atlas, just performed a maneuver that our best science says is impossible. It didn't just change course, it was as if something grabbed it and pushed it. The most shocking fact is, NASA's internal alerts went straight to orange, triggering the biggest planetary defense scramble in decades. They know more than they're telling us, from the object's bizarre chemical signature to its unnatural change in brightness. What many overlooked is that this celestial visitor might not be a simple comet at all. NASA's Deep Space Nightmare. It was supposed to be a routine interstellar flyby, a footnote in astronomical journals. But the comet, 3I Atlas, just turned Mars into the scene of NASA's worst nightmare. At 2:13 in the morning, Pacific time, a single red flag appeared on the Jet Propulsion Laboratory's mission dashboard. You see, the system had just caught a 3.2% orbital deviation in the comet's path as it swung by the red planet. This was an outlier so massive, so far off the models, that the automated alert skipped the yellow warning and jumped straight to orange. A crisis call was triggered. Within minutes, the night shift engineers, who were halfway through their routine system checks, were scrambling. Their phones lit up and Slack channels exploded with pings. The lead trajectory analyst, still in sneakers from a midnight coffee run, was suddenly fielding calls from Planetary Defense, Mars Operations, and the top floor. What many overlooked at first was the sheer scale of the event. The control room, usually a place of quiet, confident humming, became thick with tension. Every single screen was filled with live telemetry, error logs, and projections that just didn't make sense. The deviation was quickly confirmed by 2 independent observatories, one in Japan, another in Spain, within the hour. Now the question wasn't if the data was real, but how much worse this could get. By 2:30 in the morning, the emergency protocol kicked in. The on-call Planetary Defense Coordinator authorized a full-scale, top-level teleconference. NASA's Planetary Defense Coordination Office, the European Space Agency's navigation team, and Japan's deep space specialists all logged on. The agenda was brutally simple. Find out if this deviation pointed to a massive violent eruption from the comet, a bizarre solar event, or something they hadn't even begun to anticipate. That call ran for 8 straight hours, completely shattering records for any anomaly response at JPL. Arguments broke out over whether the multi-billion-dollar assets orbiting Mars needed to be put into safe mode immediately. Some pushed for an urgent risk reevaluation, while others warned that a panic could compromise critical science operations. The thing nobody tells you is how fast chaos can spread in these situations. Slack channels overflowed with command line dumps, error codes, and hastily redacted screenshots. The phrase "unprecedented event" appeared in 3 separate internal memos before the sun even rose over Pasadena. One log entry, time-stamped at 3:07 in the morning, simply read, "Deviation confirmed. No model fits. Awaiting further guidance." As the sun came up, the exhausted night crew realized they had just triggered the largest planetary defense scramble since the Chelyabinsk meteor rocked Russia over a decade ago. The official alert level remained orange, but the sense of calm was gone. For the first time in years, JPL's most seasoned engineers were openly asking if their playbook even applied anymore. The next steps would depend on answers that, for now, nobody had. The only certainty was that 3I Atlas had just rewritten the rules of interstellar flybys, and every single mission in Mars orbit was suddenly on high alert. The mystery of this visitor was only just beginning to unfold. A comet unlike any other. Across the Atlantic, the European Space Agency's navigation
Well, that cut off kind of short. Yeah, I haven't been able to corroborate that story. There's a lot of really creative videos about Atlas 3I. They put in a lot of graphics, a lot of cool stuff. I haven't heard anything about that thing, putting on the brakes. As far as I know, space is like water. Like if you're in a boat and you're floating around in a lake in a boat, the boat don't have any brakes. You can't just stop in a boat. You got to throw it in reverse or hit something or put the anchor out. So anything traveling as fast as this Atlas 3I is, I don't see any way. If it just stopped moving, it probably hit something and crashed, So, but we haven't got any reports of that either. So, I'm calling fake news on that one. I think it's time to start talking about some cryptids this week. We got all kind of cryptid stuff this week, some new stuff. And this next one is kind of weird. This thing looks like it's really tall. I watched this a couple times. I didn't really see it move, but they saw something they think is a big, tall alien climbing up a mountain. These ladies out hiking. It was a really compelling video, but see what you think.
They are 2 best friends on a hike. When they stumble onto something really spooky,
Jesse Clausen and Camille Avarella were taking lots of videos and photos trying to capture the magnificent landscape known as Long's Peaks in the Rocky Mountains of Colorado. Back home in Denver, they were looking over the shots of their adventure where they took note of this image, way, way in the distance. Zooming in to the tiny dot, they realized, much to their shock, it was a mysterious thing.
I was like, wait, what's that white thing on that little cliff ledge?
We were like, what the hell is that? Should we tell someone? Like, do we call the Rangers? Like, we were just very confused.
It looked like a 20-foot alien, a humanoid, clinging to the rock. Are these the arms? Are those the legs? Jesse and Camille say they've alerted the park rangers of their discovery, just in case. Why don't you just go hike that trail again?
I'm calling pareidolia. I think it's they're seeing something that looks like a creature there, but I think it's just part of the natural rock formation, the erosion of the rock. It eroded in the shape of a, looks like a creature. I think it's time for another cryptid here. This one's kind of hard to tell what it is, but this was interesting. So the trail cam was already activated because there's a deer, and then something scares the heck out of this deer, and it just takes off. And this one's pretty interesting. Happened pretty fast. I'm gonna roll that one back again. That that deer looks up. I'm like, uh-oh. It might have been old Bigfoot standing there. The deer is probably smart to get out of there if he's going to become a snack. Got another cryptid this week. When we talked about it before, they're back in the news. The old Pukwudgies are back.
People vanish in the forests of New England, and locals blame something small, gray, and ancient. The Wampanoag call them Pukwudgies, and they don't like to be seen. For hundreds of years, the Wampanoag people have told stories of the Pukwudgies, knee-high beings with gray skin, glowing red eyes, and long noses and ears. They once lived peacefully beside human, until jealousy turned them cruel. Legends say they possess dark magic. They can shapeshift, disappear into thin air, or lure travelers off the trail with whispers that sound like loved ones calling from the trees. When angered, they've been known to push victims from cliffs, shoot poisoned arrows, or set ghost fires to lead wanderers into the swamp. In the Freetown Fall River State Forest in Massachusetts, part of the infamous Bridgewater Triangle, hikers still report strange blue lights weaving through the woods, footsteps that circle their camps, and the feeling of being watched by something low to the ground. Some even claim to have seen tiny gray figures vanish as soon as flashlights hit them. The tribes say the Pukwudgies never forgave mankind. They were driven from their lands by the giant spirit Maushop, and from that moment on, they vowed to torment humans wherever the forest still hides them. So if you ever feel something small trailing behind you on a quiet forest path, don't turn around. Because once you see a Pukwudgie, it's already too late. If you love true stories that blur the line between legend and nightmare, subscribe to the Darkside Chronicles. New hauntings on the way.
So the Pukwudgie, they said they were gray, which they kind of reminded me of those gray aliens. And then the other thing, the very striking resemblance to the sketches and the descriptions of the Hopkins, the Kelly incident, Hopkinsville, the goblins. That Pukwudgie looked an awful lot like the goblin with the big ears and long skinny arms. Then I'm not sure who's making those graphics, really cool graphics, but the one with the arrow, that Pukwudgie's going to get hurt because he had the arrow in backwards. I don't know if anybody noticed that, but he had the arrow in backwards. So that Pukwudgie, he's going to have a bad day if he tries to shoot that arrow. We got a new Bigfoot video come in. It could be fake because it's not blurry. They say Bigfoot's blurry. Here we go. Bigfoot, come on.
Oh my God, do you see that?
Yeah. Keep it steady, keep it
It's
steady.
huge. I think it's looking this way.
Don't move.
Oh, it's walking. It's leaving.
I got it.
Holy.
Oh.
Wasn't there very long. It looked to me kind of like just a gorilla, you know, but it didn't. We didn't get to see it walk very long. It's like it got cut off before they. I don't know if they cut it on purpose or what. But let's roll that again. I'm calling gorilla or fake.
Oh my God, do you see that?
Yeah. Keep it steady, keep it
It's
steady.
huge. I think it's looking this way.
Don't move.
Oh, it's walking. It's leaving.
I got it.
Holy.
Oh.
I'd like to see a little more of that, be able to get a little better determination, but it's either a gorilla or something fake. Pretty wild. I think I got another cryptid video here. Maybe not. Yes. This is our favorite Kentucky cryptid, Dogman.
We rarely get Dogman videos, especially new ones, so let's go ahead and give it a watch. Slowed and rotated. What? Do you think that this is legitimate, or do you think it's just a hoax?
I don't know what y'all think. Anybody wants to call in, let us know what you think. You can call in live. I'm thinking it's a hoax. I think it's a guy in a costume. I don't know. I don't know what it was doing. It just kind of like hanging out there by the camper that it took off. So I'm calling BS on that one. I'm thinking it was probably just somebody in a a werewolf costume or something like that. And I'll try to see if I have any more. This is going to be a roll the dice mystery video. I can't see what it is, so we're going to see what it is.
Just as abruptly as it stopped, it began to move again. Slowly at first, as if regaining consciousness, then smoothly returning to its original path, leaving behind nothing but data and disbelief. That moment, the day motion itself faltered, would become one of the greatest puzzles in astronomical history. Scientists now refer to it as the pause. But as new analysis from the James Webb Telescope revealed, what happened that night wasn't just a glitch in celestial mechanics. The readings taken during those hours, the thermal pulses, the subtle oscillations in light, hinted at something even stranger. Because during the stillness, 3I Atlas wasn't silent. It was active. When the data from the first observatory came in, disbelief was the natural reaction. A pause in motion? Impossible. Every scientist on duty assumed a malfunction, an error in calibration, a glitch in software, maybe a momentary disturbance caused by solar radiation. But that illusion shattered when, one by one, observatories across the world confirmed the same impossible thing. From the Subaru telescope in Hawaii to La Silla in Chile, and even the European Southern Observatory in Paranal, astronomers began reporting identical readings. 3I Atlas wasn't moving. The stars in the background shifted as expected, the galaxies drifted as they always did, but the interstellar object at the center of every frame remained locked in place, perfectly stationary. Within hours, the confirmation spread beyond professional networks. Amateur astronomers with high precision.
Well, looks like they're trying to say the 3I Atlas stopped by Mars. And then that video there was also trying to say the same thing. So I'm going to have to do a little more research on that because I don't see how anything could put the brakes on going that fast unless it crashed. This is another interesting UFO video. And this is a real life account from a flight attendant. And she seemed pretty sincere, legit, and pretty interesting video. I'm sure this happens all the time out there flying around, but it's a little inside view of what goes on in the cockpit of an airplane that we don't normally get to hear about. So, interesting point of view.
Tell us your name and where you're from.
My name is Sarah. I'm from Little Rock, Arkansas.
Okay, so I hear you've had an experience that I have to hear about. Can you explain what that was?
Sure. I'm a flight attendant, and we were on about a 3-hour flight. And it's interesting because we always joke around how pilots have such small bladders, and they hadn't asked to come out to use the restroom yet. And so we were getting close to landing, and then I get a frantic phone call from the captain, and he says, "Hey, Sarah, can we set up for a bathroom break really fast?" And I was like, yeah, sure, of course. And so when that happens, a pilot comes out, and a flight attendant has to step up into the flight deck. And so I stepped up into the flight deck, and the first officer said, "Hey, you want to see something cool?" And I was like, well, yeah, I guess. And he was like, "Do you see those lights out there?" And I was like, well, it's nighttime, and there's city lights, so yeah, I've seen that before. And he was like, no. Look out on the horizon and then look up around right there. And I was like, you mean that star? And he was like, keep watching. And so I said, okay. And then all of a sudden the star just completely disappeared. And I was like, what? And then it came back. And then two smaller like stars like that were like, it looked like they were further in the distance, came up on both sides of it. And then they disappeared while the bigger stars stayed, and then they came back again, and then they all disappeared. And I got a couple pictures of it, and then the first officer went out to use the bathroom. The captain came in, and the captain said that that's been the third sighting that he's seen in like the last year and a half. And they always call, they always try to radio and figure out what's going on, and that there was no military activity or anything like that. And I asked him if he thought it was satellites, and he said that he really has no idea, but he doesn't think that they're satellites. And that, yeah, and then the first officer said that was the second time that he's seen something like that. And that was the first time I think I had an orb experience. And it wasn't long after that my brother started talking to me about Chris, and then I was like, okay. And I've seen one more orb since then, so.
That's amazing. So when was that, and like how did you process that, and how did our story help you with that, if it did at all?
It was, I think, September 8th, 2024. And I already was open to the idea of like UFO, UAP type things, and I never really thought that we were necessarily alone. And then I was riding with my family on a trip back from Indiana, and I started watching a very, very long Chris Bledsoe interview, and that helped pass the time. And I was just like, how cool would it be if this was real, and how that would help me kind of actualize and understand what I've been trying to figure out about my own spirituality for a long time, growing up very conservative in church and things like that. And so yeah, it just gave me a lot of things to be hopeful about, and something to kind of meditate on and to consider. So yeah.
That's amazing. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
I got a picture to show you. Here's the picture of the one we saw. That we don't know what it is, but guy in New York, he saw one too. It looked kind of like that, and it didn't blink off and on, and it didn't do like the one she was talking about, where it blinked off and on, and then other little ones popped out of it. We didn't see anything like that, so it's pretty wild. So that was the flight attendant. I don't know if you guys ever seen anything like that. Any pilots out watching could let us know. Anybody want to call in, talk about it? Not a problem. We'd love to hear from some pilots that have seen some crazy stuff out there. And we're going to talk into a few other things here. about. I got a nurse here. This is some paranormal stuff. We got some paranormal things we've noticed, stuff that other people have noticed, like trends. We got some trends here with different climate effects, full moon, that kind of thing. Some of our best captures were during a full moon, right after rain, and I got some really cool pictures on our. We put them up on our Facebook page. Our Facebook is SIS Supernatural Investigation Squad. It's S.I.S. And we have a Facebook channel, or Facebook group page. We have a TikTok channel. I think it's SIS_2021. And then our YouTube channel is Supernatural Sundays. And then we actually have a Supernatural Sundays podcast for Facebook. And the logo, if you're looking for it on Facebook, the logo will be like this. It'll be me and Vinny and the UFO there beaming up some cows. It'll also look kind of like this. You get on there, if anybody's looking for it. Sometimes people have trouble finding. There's another Supernatural Sundays YouTube channel, and it's another group. They do some different Christian activities and stuff. They do have some pretty cool content. But ours will have our other little logo with the like on my hat here. We got the little goat man. That's the goat man from Pope Lick Trestle on there. If you see the little triangle with a little red triangle with a goat, that's us. And this is I don't know. People have a lot of rules, when they go out investigating, like, don't provoke. Some people don't want to use Ouija boards because they think it brings in evil things and stuff, follows them home and opens up portals and bad things can happen. And then this is more of a kind of a respect thing. If you go to a cemetery and whatnot, don't do this, don't do that. This is just this guy's take on it. Kind of interesting thing. We always go out and ask, like, hey, what's your name, whatever. But we don't always go, can we have your permission? Or, hey, is it okay? Or, so this is just kind of another level, something I hadn't really thought too deep about. We always try to be respectful, but this is a little different way of looking at it.
These signs should never be ignored when visiting a cemetery. You should never greet the dead by saying, hello. That word means be healthy, and the person is no longer alive. Spirits in the cemetery might take it as an insult and become angry, or even seek revenge. You must never eat anything that grows on a graveyard. That belongs to the dead, and their spirits may come to you in dreams or visions, demanding that you return what you took. You should never visit a cemetery with your hair down. Long, loose hair is said to attract entities that can attach themselves and drain your energy. You must not go straight home after visiting a cemetery. It's important to stop somewhere first, like a store or another building, so that the energy of the cemetery doesn't follow you inside. Never pick up crosses or pendants you find on graves or anywhere else. They carry someone else's misfortune, and taking them can bring that trouble into your own life. Never leave personal belongings at the cemetery, because they will symbolically become the property of the dead and start to draw your strength away. You shouldn't clean or decorate graves that don't belong to your loved ones. Don't disturb the resting places of strangers or interfere where you are not invited. And never visit the cemetery on the birthday of the deceased. It's believed that on that day, the spirit might take a life as a gift from the living.
I don't know. I disagree with most of that. I can see maybe asking permission or to talk something. Saying hello, I don't see how that could be offensive. We've had our equipment go into, come on stuff, say hello to us. So, I don't know. I don't know about eating anything growing in the cemetery. It's not like people plant a lot of tomatoes there or anything, It's like, I think if I seen an apple tree growing, and I think eating one of those would probably be okay. I don't know if I'd want to eat some tomatoes that are growing right over an old grave, you know, you know what's fertilizing that plant. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I don't, and I think if you leave something in the cemetery, I don't think it becomes anybody's property unless they take it. We've left stuff before. We've left recorders, and you know, not necessarily the cemetery, but we've left them in investigations in like homes and different places. They're real tiny, those recorders, so it gets a little confusing at the end of the night. People are tired and they're packing stuff up. And they might, if they didn't put the recorder in the location, they may not know it's there and walk right by it. One thing I recommend, something we started using, they're like a watch you can get, and it's a recorder. And you can just strap it on your arm, and then you won't lay it down or leave it. Especially if you're like me, running multiple pieces of equipment at the same time. That recorder is just one less thing you don't have to hold on to when you got a couple cameras and stuff going. So, highly recommend the little wristwatch recorders. It's nice if you have multiple recorders, if you got a big location and you're trying to record stuff going on in different places. But if it's a small place or you're just walking around somewhere outside, you pretty well want to record what's next to you. I had my first EVP capture with a hand recorder, and I also captured it on the camcorder. I got double validation on that first EVP I ever got. We were going around for like 2 years before I ever got my first, what I would call like a Class B. Class A is loud, clear, very, legible what they're saying and everything. But then Class B is a little quieter. It's almost like a whisper, but you can understand it. You still understand what they're saying. And then a Class C is just kind of like, you get a noise, you get a response. You can't understand it. You don't know what it is. Those are Class C. And we get some of those. We're like, well, is that anything or is that just the equipment? So we try to debunk a lot of what if it doesn't sound like something talking or we don't understand what it's saying, we're not always going to, show that content. We try to show content if we think we found something interesting. We don't necessarily say it's paranormal, but we always try to put interesting stuff out there. I had an interesting video here from a nurse. There she is.
Hey there, so this is a really great question asking if as a nurse I've ever had any unexplained moments, and I definitely have. I would say about 12, 13 years ago, I was working as a floor nurse on a med-surg unit. I was working a night shift, and we had a room that was kind of in the back right corner of our floor that we were using as storage. It just had like extra beds in there, extra monitors, extra equipment, just kind of any leftover stuff that we had. So that night, at some point in the middle of the night, a code blue went off for that room. So that was, meaning that a patient coded, maybe cardiac arrest, something like that. So, we get the crash cart, everyone goes running back, not realizing that that's the patient room that we just have stuff shoved in. There's nobody in there. So we get in there and we're like, okay, what happened? I don't know how, that light could have even been pressed because the call lights weren't even hooked up in that room. So we're like, okay, that was really strange. Must have just been a weird malfunction, whatever. So everybody kind of goes back to doing their own thing. And throughout the night, about every half an hour to an hour, and then sometimes it was like really close, like every 15 minutes, the call light would go off for that room. And we had a little box at the nurse's station that would light up, the room number that they were calling from for their nurse. You could press the button and you could listen, ask them what they needed or whatever. So every time we'd press the button and listen, I can't for the life of me remember what the song was because this was a long time ago, but it was like a very faint, old-timey song that was playing in the background. But when you would go into the room, there's no music. There's nothing to make that sound. So we had, people going back and, checking in that room. We had people standing outside the door, like thinking, okay, someone's playing a prank on us. But it happened the entire night. We would go in the room, there would be nobody there. So we never did figure it out. I don't know if that was the anniversary of somebody dying, something happening in that room. It was the craziest thing. I mean, it was all night long, the entire 12 hours that happened. It never happened again when I was working there, and I never heard of it happening after I left. It was just like a one-time freak thing. But I think about it often. I'm not sure. I've never really experienced anything like that before, but it will definitely be burned in my brain for forever. So thanks for your question.
That's pretty cool. I can see how equipment can malfunction, but the code blue, and then the light going off over and over, then the music, and then it never happened again, just that one night. That's pretty wild. Could be something paranormal. Could be solar flare, you know. But I think if it was something like a solar flare, it would happen more often. This next clip is, I believe, an XLS system, which basically is a structured light system. It sends out all these little laser sensors, and it bounces off of everything. It's like a LiDAR. It can map everything, and it's looking for anything human shaped. And this was it looks like a pretty cool capture off an XLS system, and looks like a little like a spirit coming through there. So, or a kid or something, but it doesn't look solid like everything else. So we're gonna pull this clip up here. Man, that was quick. I'm gonna roll that again. I didn't even get a good look at it. Here we go. One more time. I think what makes that more compelling than anything is the fact that you see the wall and nothing there. If it was a person, you'd see them a long ways off, and they'd come walking through, and they'd be solid. There was nothing there that like appears, and then it's like walking like a person. So that, and it was 3-dimensional. It wasn't like a, just a basic hollowed out stick person. So it looks like either a LiDAR or an XLS system. It's kind of hard to tell what it was, but it did have the color mapping like LiDAR does. So we've had some issues where we think we get better activity under a full moon, and I've got some pretty compelling pictures of we were out in a full moon. I'm gonna pull this up, see what you guys think. If you guys been out doing investigations, did it seem more active during the full moon phase? Because I know I used to run limousines and party buses, and if I had to do a run on a full moon, taking people out down around to the bars and whatnot, and there's always a lot more crazy stuff happen, seems like, on a full moon. Well, thought that was going to be a little longer clip, but basically they're saying what I was saying. The full moon phases, we know it affects the tides. We know it affects sometimes when animals and sometimes when babies are coming along. If it's real close to the birth date, the full moon, sometimes it'll happen on a full moon. And but the activity seems to be a little more active during the full moon. And I got one more little cryptid video we're going to sneak in there. This is a Mothman video.
After 59 years, Mothman has finally been caught on camera, and I'm going to show you. At least a lot of people are claiming this is in fact the elusive Mothman, which first was spotted nearly 60 years ago in Point Pleasant, West Virginia. Here's a little something you might not know. Since the original Mothman sighting in the 1960s, there have been dozens of Mothman sightings across the Appalachia and beyond. Everywhere from Arkansas to Cades Cove in the Smoky Mountains, pretty much everywhere. Mothman type creatures who people report being 7 to 8 feet tall, and some comparable to that of a toddler or small child. Watch what this person captured on their camera as they were cruising through the Appalachian back roads. And this winged creature crosses the road. Check it out. Let me know in the comments what you think. Have a great day. God bless.
Well, definitely something crossing the road. I'm calling deer, especially at the end when I see the two little legs sticking out the back. It's either a deer with a baby deer coming out of it, like trying to give birth and cross the road, or it was just jumping in all legs and tail, and trying not to get hit by the car. I don't see any resemblance of a Mothman. I didn't see any wings or anything like that. So I'm gonna call that a misidentification. I think they thought they saw something flying across the road, but I think it was just a deer like scrambling. And sometimes they get a little clumsy when they're trying to run on a road that's not exactly a natural substance for them to run on or walk on. I think that's all the ghost stuff, cryptid, alien, UFO, and we're getting close to Halloween, so we got one little witch clip here. Love to have a witch on the program. If any witches are out there want to call in, or anybody claims to be any type of witch, Glenda the good witch, bad witch, white witch, anybody into any kind of witchcraft at all, we would love to have you on the program because we got a lot of questions. Try to understand. We did go up to Salem a couple weeks back, up in Massachusetts, where they prosecuted those young ladies. It was really sad. It was wrong what happened to them. I don't care if you're doing any kind of weird stuff. If you're into weird stuff, so what? But if you, they weren't hurting anybody, and then they think maybe they something in the water they drank, or maybe they ate some mushrooms or something. They were, kind of hallucinating, and bad water can do that. I mean, let's face it, we didn't have water treatment programs back then, so maybe they had some giardia or whatever. But they were saying some weird stuff that didn't make sense. So back in the day, people didn't understand it. They feared it, and they thought they were, doing some kind of witchcraft, and they took their life because of it. They hanged them, and then there was one male witch. They put rocks around his head and put him in a cider press, crushed his head in there, and it was just really sad. What they did with the bodies too. They would just throw them there's like some rocks with a crack in the rock, and they would just throw the bodies in there. They didn't give them proper funerals or burials, and because they were scared of them. And I think 3 different families actually came back, retrieved the bodies, took them back to the family plots, but most of them just were disrespected even after death. Throw it that way. So this is the Witch's Tree up in Louisville. If anybody's ever been up to Louisville, go see the Witch's Tree. It's pretty interesting. The local, I guess they were spiritualists, or I don't know if they were actually claimed to be witches at the time, but they go around this tree and have their little ceremonies, kind of like worshiping the earth, and kind of doing some pagan stuff. It wasn't really hurting anybody, but the city wanted to cut down the tree, and they're like, no, don't cut down our tree. That's our sacred tree. And, bad stuff will happen. And they cut it down anyway. And a tornado came through right after that and just tore up the whole part of the town. And I'm trying to remember, there's a lot of stories about the tree. I'm trying to remember if lightning hit it or not, but another tree grew out of it. And it's a weird looking tree that grew out of it. It's pretty bumpy. It's got a lot of burls on it and gnarls on it. And it doesn't look like just a regular old tree. So a lot of people go there and consider it sacred because of the story and the way it came back out of it regrew. There's a lot of offerings there. You'll see all kind of trinkets, a lot of weird stuff people leave there. I checked it out I did get some energy off of it with my K2 meter. Can't explain it. It's kind of interesting. And then one point, there was a kind of a spontaneous fire in the house that sits right behind that tree. They were doing one of those ghost tours one night where they walk you around the old part of Louisville. And they got there and they were doing the tour and they looked up, they saw smoke, and then pretty soon it was in flames and it burnt part of that house, the upper level. And they claim it had something to do with the tree, but yeah, I don't know. But anyway, this is the witch's tree.
This is the witch's tree. We are in Louisville, Kentucky, the corner of 6th and Park. According to local folklore, this tree in the late 19th century is where witches would gather and perform their rituals. Well, city planners at that time decided they wanted to cut the tree down and use it as part of their May Day celebration. The witches didn't like that and tried to get them not to cut it down, but the city planners cut the tree down anyway. Locals believe the witches summoned a storm demon and brought this huge storm on Louisville. Well, 11 months to the day of cutting this tree down, a tornado rolled right through Louisville, Kentucky, and killed some 100 people, including some of the city planners. And when that tornado was on the way out of town, lightning struck the stump of the tree that was cut down here, and this new gnarled up, wicked looking tree grew in its place. You see the trinkets here. Locals now believe that if they add trinkets to the trees, and the higher it goes, the more luck you have, that you will stay in the good graces of the witches.
Thought I'd throw that in there at the end, getting ready for Halloween. And I think that's about all I got for this week. Not sure what we got going on for next week. Hopefully some of those witches will call in, or some of those pilots. I'd love to have a guest with some firsthand knowledge and see what we can learn. I think that's all I have. I appreciate everybody tuning in this week for this week's Supernatural Sundays. And shout out to Mr. Fitzhugh. Saw him over at the Goblin Con. He wrote the Bell Witch books, and got a couple books from him. He was one of our first guests on our podcast. I met him and his daughter, and we had a really good talk and visit over there. So met a lot of interesting people at the Goblin Con, some other paranormal investigators, some cryptid folks were there, some guys that go out hunting Bigfoot and stuff. And so it was pretty interesting. Anyway, appreciate y'all tuning in, and you have a good one. Come on.